I'm a lifelong resident of Killeen. I've lived here my whole life. And I grew up just outside of downtown. So downtown's always been kind of near and dear to my heart. And I see all these things, and we talk about the city does have great programs and incentives to incentivize development or revitalization or redevelopment downtown. My concern and what I see as a resident is, and this was partially brought up before, is marketing and outreach. I think the city of Killeen really does itself a disservice in the way that it performs its economic development function. And of course, you get different opinions, everybody you talk to, and I'm just giving mine. We have all these great programs in downtown, but the problem is nobody knows about them because we don't have a position or a person to market those programs. Your position is great, but your position is really like a program manager. You're not out there soliciting investors and developers like a typical economic development position would do. And that's sort of separate in Killeen, and the way that function's been performed in years past, as the city gives money to the Killeen Economic Development Corporation and to the Chamber of Commerce to partially help accomplish that mission. In my eyes, again, as a resident taxpayer, that whole process is dysfunctional. And what I would like to have Ms. Fleming do, and all of City Council, is to really step back and take a look at that process. The way that we are currently doing that economic development function, I think may have been great and okay 20 years ago, but now it's completely antiquated. Nobody knows about these programs that we have. So it's like if you invent an awesome product that could change someone's life, but if you don't market it, nobody's gonna buy it, nobody knows about it. And that's kind of like how I feel Killeen's downtown programs are. We have great programs, we have a great downtown, we have great resources and assets to offer, but there's nobody selling it. There's nobody out there communicating with developers and investors to say, hey, look, come downtown, build this, invest your money. These are the incentives we'll give you. This is how Spare Time in Temple was built. You know, the people who built Spare Time in Temple are from Killeen. They're the Emmons. They're local Killeen residents. They lived here their whole lives. And I asked them, Mike and Curtis, why did you not build Spare Time in Killeen? You're from Killeen. Well, Temple approached us with great incentives. Temple approached them. Temple has a wonderful economic development corporation that is staffed with people with the expertise and knowledge and background to be able to solicit those types of deals. We don't have that, so that, in my opinion, is why we don't get more than what we get, which is mostly retail. Another thing in downtown, and you and I spoke offline about this before, and I think anybody who drives around downtown or has lived in Killeen for several years, like I said, I lived here my whole life, is the amount of vacant or abandoned building stock. There's a lot of owners downtown that own property that sits there vacant because in their minds they feel like one day downtown's gonna blow up and they're gonna get this huge payday off of somebody else's work, which that may or may not work if they live that long to see that come to fruition. My issue, again, with that as a resident and somebody who's passionate about downtown and wants to see all the great things that I think everybody says that they want to see there, is those buildings staying vacant and stagnant is not helping anybody. They're not producing much, if any, property tax ad valorem revenue. They're producing zero sales tax dollars. They're not paying into our rate system for utilities. So they're not really helping the city at all, except providing an eyesore and an attractive nuisance. So again, going back to our previous conversation, what other cities have done, like Austin, for example, obviously Austin is apples and oranges to Killeen, but something great that they've done is they have a vacant and abandoned building registry program. So again, like yourself, where code enforcement goes out And they make a note, okay, this building, we noted it, it's vacant and or abandoned, whatever that legal definition is. We take a picture of it, it's time stamped today. City council, when they come up with an ordinance, they say after 6 months or after a year, whatever that time is, then the city can declare that building vacant or abandoned as a public nuisance. At that time, the city code enforcement can fine that owner up to $2,000 per day, and that motivates and lights a fire, forgive my language, under someone's ass to do something with that building, either sell it to somebody who's gonna put something in it, or rent it out, or do something with it that's gonna generate some income and provide some better quality of life for the residents that are down here in this area. The third thing, and I'll be finished, is I was recently told, and I don't know how true this is, but maybe between you guys or Ms. Fleming can follow up after this meeting, is I was told that the North Precinct of the Killeen Police Department was removing all of their uniformed police officers and marked units from the North Precinct. And that may make sense as far as budgetary or financials go, moving them down to the main headquarters. Again, in my eyes and in my opinion as a resident, we were just talking about signs, these neighborhood watch signs, how they act as a deterrent. So to me, those police vehicles and those uniformed officers, even if they were just sitting there at the North Precinct, they act as a deterrent for crime. So take away that deterrent from down there. What do you think that that's gonna do for crime in that area? Even if you have plainclothes officers there, those guys are gonna be detectives, they're gonna be working on special missions. In the layman person's eyes, it's gonna look like they've abandoned the North Precinct. We can kind of do what we want. These guys are gone. I don't see any cars here. I don't see any uniformed officers coming in and out of the building. So that's a concern to me about someone, again, who's passionate about downtown and passionate about my city that I've grown up in for a long time. So I would implore the city council, members that are here, and the mayor, to really look at that, and whether or not that's true, you guys can find out easier than I can. If a decision like that has been made, maybe reconsider that decision, because there are a lot of people in that area that benefit from those officers and those vehicles being there. That's all I got.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, one thing to that. Plus that counteracts the idea of building up downtown, because some of the businesses that might want to move into downtown might be wanting to do it because of the police presence. But now if they're thinking about moving them out, then they're saying, well, I don't want to be down there. You know, it's just a quicker response time by having them in town.
Well, as far as I know, I don't take any decision. I'm just telling you what I think. No decision has been made. I did hear something about this, and I know Mr. Mayor knows the same thing. We cannot go into that because I don't think it's even come up on the agenda.
Well, I think,
everybody's been known about this, but it
it's
hasn't
something
been.
our interim city manager, he's able to do without city council. And so, you know, it's one of those things that you figure out ways to cut money. It's like, okay, how do we cut without cutting services? And, you know, we're doing a lot of things. We should have built a new city hall years ago, but we didn't do it. And it's like, you know, you rebuild $1.2 million that's gonna cost for city hall, or do you figure out another way without having to spend? And it's one of those things that you can't do both. You know, you either raise revenue, cut expenses somewhere. And sometimes that's the challenge that we have. And I think that what you said, you know, you just gotta look at it and see, make sure that if you see that crime rate because of the police station moving from there, crime rate goes up or something, then it's something, okay, we may have to move it back.
Well, yeah, but why risk it in the first place? You know, it's like you're gambling, we're gonna take a chance, we'll pull these guys out of here. Hopefully nothing happens, if something does, and we'll put the guys back after the fact. Again, I would like to, as a taxpayer, I think us taxpayers as a whole are owed, at least a part in that discussion, if that's gonna happen. You know, ultimately, we're the ones paying, the taxpayers are the ones paying. So if a decision like that is gonna be made, I would hope that that would be held in some sort of public forum or public hearing where they could have some input. And I understand you're saying the city manager obviously has their own scope of duties and responsibilities and authority that they can make certain things happen without council approval. But in my mind, if council is there saying, we don't think that that's a good move, ultimately, the city manager answers to the council. If he wants to keep his job when he is up for his evaluation, he may take that into consideration and be like, well, maybe that won't be such a popular move for my tenure here in this position, so maybe we can think of another way. And I completely agree, sometimes it's one of the two. Either you cut or you raise revenues, and raising taxes and utility rates is always an unpopular decision, especially for you guys, especially when it comes to election time. But in my mind, again, just as a taxpayer, if that was the case, I would think that I, or just myself, would be more amenable to some kind of tax increase or rate increase if I knew exactly what I was getting in return for my investment. You know, raising rates and raising taxes just for the sake of doing so, I don't think is responsible, nor is it very popular with the people paying into that system. But if you've done, like, I know Temple recently wanted to do a whole parks master plan, and there's all these improvements that they want to do, so they put it on the ballot. And people voted on it, and they voted to pass it. And they knew if they voted for this, they were gonna receive a rate increase. It was part of that, but they knew exactly what they were getting in return. They were getting hike and bike trails, they were getting renovated parks, they were getting all these quality of life things in return for their investment. So, like you said, I understand, you know, cutting or raising revenues, so in the future, if you guys were to consider stuff like